Hi, and welcome to Starry-Eyed Soul. So, I decided I wanted to use my time-lapse videos as sort of a background to a chit-chat. And in this chit-chat, I'm talking to those of you who want to improve your art and you're feeling like you're stuck. Well, let me tell you, I have been there. I know what you're going through. I know it sucks. I've been to art school. I've worked in a lot of different arts communities. I've lived with artists. I've done things, commissions, I've done freelance, I've done whole sections of life where I didn't pick up a pencil and draw at all. I've done all different kinds of art, and I am here to tell you that most of the time when you feel like you can't make anything, or you're not good enough, or you're just not inspired, you're not motivated, it's because you're in an environment where you're surrounded by negativity. You're surrounding yourself with negativity. And that, my friends, is unfortunately part of the giant economic steamroller that is the art world. It can be gallerists telling you you're not good enough. It can be your professors being cruel to you. It can be your boyfriend or your girlfriend making fun of your work. It can be an online community that has some harsh stuff to say about what you've done. And it can also just be your own self-talk, your own perfectionism, getting in the way of you accepting that everything you do is worth doing. Every mistake is a learning experience. It doesn't mean you suck. It doesn't mean you've failed. It means you are learning. You don't like what you make. Okay. Well, let's break that down. Are you making stuff for other people, thinking that you're going to make something that they like? Maybe somebody told you that what you do is weird, or is too something, too cutesy, too sexy, too fantastical, too anime, too realistic, too, anybody can criticize your work for any reason. Believe me, even if you think you're at your absolute magnum opus level, somebody's gonna have something to say. And if you've ever gone through art school, you'll know that when you have a room full of artists who are forced to critique each other, even if at first glance you see somebody else's work and you say, damn, that's really amazing, you're forced in that moment to see what they, quote unquote, could have improved on. And that's part of your training as an artist, is to see that potential. Now, that can be really discouraging. I'm not saying that critique is bad, because we should be able to identify what we can improve on. That is essential for anything that we're learning. Art, any sort of skill. We should be able to say, okay, in order to get to the next level, I need to improve on this. But oftentimes, in those little closed critique rooms, it's not about technical skill. It's about if somebody likes it or not, or if somebody doesn't agree with the artist themselves. That happens a lot, actually. That personal differences get in the way. And that's what brings me back to saying, you don't feel inspired, you don't feel motivated. Maybe you are stuck in the mud of being surrounded by some yucky personalities. And that can really take the inspiration out of your soul. So maybe you're in art school and you just gotta slog through it. Maybe you're in an environment where you're surrounded by a bunch of other artists who don't really resonate with you. You know, you could be kind of stuck for the moment, but even if you're stuck in the moment, here's my advice to you. You might have to complete assignments. Sure, go ahead. But make what you want to make for yourself and don't tell anybody about it. Don't ask for feedback. Don't ask for anything from anybody else. Don't ask for somebody else to validate what you're making. Just do it. And the more that you do that, the more that you are going to find out what you actually enjoy making and doing. And that's how you're going to find your voice. That's also going to be how you improve faster. Because if you're making what really connects within your soul and you feel awesome doing it, then you're going to be motivated to improve on how you can communicate that kind of art and make it better next time. And that goes for every kind of art. Whether you're drawing figures, whether you're drawing abstract art, whether you're making cosplay costumes, fashion design, graphic design, anything. Any kind of creativity, film, anything. If you're making what you want to make, you're going to want to do it better. And you're going to want to figure out what those steps are to make it better. Otherwise, if you're trying to be better for somebody else who has their own limiting beliefs on what being better looks like, you're always going to be putting your energy in someone else's bucket. You're going to be working for someone else. But I have a feeling that as an artist, as a creator, you want to be making things that feel good to you, feel exciting, feel like you're breaking the mold, feel like you're reaching toward an unattainable goal, and just the energy you put toward doing that is exciting. Being an artist for the sake of the work is kind of crazy. And people are going to look at you like you're insane. They're going to look at you like you're naive. Let's think about an animation company. And how many, let's specifically think about 2D animation. How many single frames there has to be to create 1 second of animation, let alone a full-length feature. And that's just the figures. And it goes from concept to sketch to inking to painting to any sort of After Effects issues. And then you have the background design, you have the music, you have the voice acting, you have the direction, you have the editing. There's so many levels, and it takes years to make those films. You have to be so committed to that vision to do it. So if you're not connected with your vision, how the heck are you going to stay on task? That's something that gets me through, is when I imagine, like my favorite directing film company, Ghibli, how committed they were to making these stories and how much grueling work it took to make these beautiful pieces of art. It kind of tells me, you know what? Suck it up. Suck it up and do what you gotta do to get to the next stage. All right. So you're stressed out because you feel like your art is ugly. Well, is it ugly to others, or is it ugly to you? Is it ugly because it's unfinished? Because let me tell you, even if you make beautiful work, the first lines can often look like absolute goofy gobbledygook. And you're gonna just struggle through those first lines. The pretty stuff happens later. So your art is ugly probably because your foundations need work. Or you're just not clear on your end goal. Which again brings me back to connecting with yourself by not showing other people or not seeking validation from other people until you know what you're after artistically. Then when you figure out what you're after, then you can go back and say, okay, what are the foundational skills that I need to make this happen? Do I need to work on my basic shapes? Do I need to understand perspective better? Do I need to understand color better? Do I need to understand the way a camera goes in and out of focus, or how to draw facial expressions? What is it that you want to accomplish? And focus on that. There are many, many opinions on what makes you grow as an artist. And I do agree that life drawing is essential, but just doing it haphazardly because it's there isn't necessarily going to get you where you want to be. You might be able to sit down with the other big dogs of life drawing and say, yeah, I can draw that naked lady pretty darn good. And they go, yeah, that's a pretty good naked lady drawing. But what are you going to do with it? I will tell you, I have had thousands and thousands of life drawing sketches. Did they do anything for me? I guess, sure. They improved my skill, they improved my observational skill, they improved my hand. And they're important for being able to imagine in your mind's eye what the human body would do in certain situations, which is great for things like illustration and animation. Okay, cool. But if I had actually sat down and said, okay, I want to draw a comic, and in my comic, I want my characters to be able to do these types of things. They're going to mainly be doing these types of things. If I had gone out into the world and I had found people who looked like the characters that I wanted, and I drew them doing their thing in the day-to-day, like going to a coffee shop and seeing how two people interact with each other. That's very effective for learning how to do drawings for comic, for illustration, Having a purpose is going to help you so much. Having an end goal is going to help you so much in figuring out what you need to study. Maybe you need to do a bunch of birds because in your upcoming project you want to paint birds. Great. That's a simple idea. There is so much resource material on the internet. Here's a tip. If you can't find a picture you're satisfied with because it's so, I'm going to call it picture-y, it's so set up, it's so static, and you want something more energetic, watch videos and pause it, take screenshots. You can find your own reference material this way. Or, even better, go out and get your own reference material. Because one of the things that we suffer with in this age of internet is that everything tends to be derivative. What do I mean by that? Is that everything looks like something else somebody has already done, especially with AI. So, we are in the time where creators, artists need to stand out with their unique take. Don't be afraid to be unique. Don't be afraid to come at it from your own interests. And I mean, be fearless. You don't have to meet the criteria of someone else to be considered an artist. Let's think about in the MoMA in New York. So much of those artists, I'm going to be frank, they did a bunch of drugs and they slapped a bunch of paint on a canvas, and to the cultural zeitgeist, that was amazing. Oh my gosh. Whoa. They are still hanging up in one of the most famous museums in the world. And when I was in college, I learned about these artists over and over and over again because for some reason, my professors found them to be so genius. Because you know why? It's because they did something brave and weird. It was so counterculture to do that instead of sitting down and drawing a pretty lady. And you can see in Picasso's section of the MoMA where, and since I've done thousands of figure drawings, and every single figure drawing, I even ran a figure drawing group, okay? You could tell that he got bored of it, and that's where Cubism started happening, because he was breaking it down and breaking it down. He was so bored of drawing the figure that he turned it into an abstract experiment. So don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to try art that doesn't necessarily appeal to you when you're learning, because it's still gonna inform you on who you are as an artist. And yeah, so just be fearless. Try different styles, try different media, whether that be drawing with charcoal or pencil or watercolor or gouache or all different kinds of stuff. And you know, the wonderful thing about being in a digital age, I use Clip Studio Paint, which is what this time-lapse video is in. It's really affordable, honestly, and I find it to be light years away from Photoshop, because it's made for artists who want to make art. They want to make something that looks like a painting, a drawing. It really feels more natural. Photoshop is amazing in its own way, but it's really more for editing. It's not as intuitive for doing the art thing. So if you have, you don't want to invest in a bunch of expensive art supplies, because in all honesty, there is a big difference in using cheap art supplies versus the good stuff. I know, I've used it all. It's not to discount that you can use cheap stuff and get a decent look, but the key there is that you need to have some really, really stellar foundations in order to make that happen. And then you're still going to feel, more than likely, you're still going to feel like it's not really at the caliber that you want it to be, right? So I think this new age of digital art is so accessible and so wonderful. And you can do experiment after experiment after experiment, and you can just throw it in your trash bin, or you can use it as reference. You can even take figures that you've drawn in another piece, put it in a new piece, copy and paste it, and draw over it. You can do so much. You can truly be fearless. You can Control-Z to your heart's content. You can save as a new file. So, you can really throw that fear element out the window. So, if you can, I highly recommend getting into digital art if you haven't already. Okay. So, lastly, you don't have time. Oh my gosh, I don't have time. Well, don't sit down for hours and hours of artwork. Make time for yourself to do something small and simple. Do a small study. Change your workflow to reflect what you have available to you. Change your schedule so you can reflect what you have available to you. Or learn to say no. That's a big one for artists. because we want to please people. Most of us are people pleasers. It is a fact. So learn to say no, learn to put up boundaries, learn to let go of those terrible jobs that suck your soul away. Let go of people who are taking your soul and dashing it to pieces, making you feel like you are obligated to do stuff that is not meant for you. Let go and focus on what matters to you. You were born into this world with a desire to create. Not everybody has that desire, and that's why they think you're crazy. So let them think that. That's fine. I really hope that something here inspired you and gets you out of your funk. I look forward to reading your comments, and let me know if you'd like to hear more like this. Take care, my starry-eyed souls, and I'll see you soon.